in Project 4, we're going to take a look at some additional formatting that we can apply to our cells. We're going to take a look at actually changing the orientation of text within a cell. We'll change the vertical alignment as well as the horizontal alignment. We've done that previously, but we're going to do many of these formatting applications through the formatting dialog box, the Format Cells dialog box. And then we'll also take a look at how we can use the Format Painter. Once we have some formats already in the worksheet that we like, we can copy those formats to other areas of our worksheet. And then finally, in Project 4, we'll learn to hide and unhide rows and columns within our worksheet. So we're going to start out on page 87 in Project 4A. I've already pulled up the HBC Jobs workbook and saved it under the appropriate name as they've described in Project 4A in number 2. So as we've done in previous projects, we're going to be reviewing and applying formats that we've learned previously. So with that, we're going to take a look at inserting a new row at the beginning of the worksheet. So as I've shown before, I'm going to right click, and I really haven't done this. Previously I've clicked on the row to select it, and then I've right clicked and chose insert. But if you want to kind of combine all those steps together, if you right click on the row itself, that will not only select the row, but it'll bring up the shortcut menu, and then at that point you can choose insert. And for row 1, they want us to insert or increase the row height to 66, and they want us to merge and center A1 through E1. Typically, when you have titles, you do want it to stretch across the number of columns that you have. And they want us to merge and center, so that's back on the Home tab in the Alignment group. And then I'm just going to click on the Merge and Center button, and that makes it all one cell. And then we're going to type in a title that was going to actually appear in 2 lines within the same cell. So I'm going to type in Harris and Briggs. And then I want to go to the next line but stay in cell A1. So I'm going to press Alt-Enter. That takes me to the next line, but it keeps me in cell A1. And then we're going to type in construction. And again, I'm going to press Enter here. So I've got Harrison Briggs on the first line. I pressed Alt-Enter. That allowed me to stay in that cell, but it took me to the next line in that cell. In cell A2, we're going to add another title here, still using the same key combination that we did before. On the first line, we're going to type in preferred, and then Alt-Enter. Keeps me in cell A2, and then I'm going to type in customer and press Enter. Now, if you'll notice, it doesn't quite fit in the width that we have, but they do want us to change the column width to 20. And column B, they want it 7. And column C, D, and E, they want to 10. So I'm going to select all of these in one shot, C, D, and E. And then we're going to click and drag so that it's 10. And that'll make every column that we have selected the width of 10. Again, as a review, this is number 4. We're going to change the number formatting to a variety of cells. First one is C3 through E11. C3 through E11. We're going to format that to the accounting format, and they want us to use the Format Cells dialog box. So I'm going to go in through the number group, click on the dialog box launcher. That brings up the Format Cells dialog box with the number tab selected, and then they want that the accounting format applied. So I'm going to go to the accounting category on the left. And this time, a little bit different than what we've done before. They want 0 decimals and keep the same $sign. If you don't catch the decimals here, obviously you can increase, decrease your decimals back out in the worksheet. So once those changes have been made, we'll go ahead and click OK here. Then they want us to put in a formula that will calculate the difference between the projected and the actual. And essentially what they're going to do is take the actual minus the projected to get the difference. So I'm going to start out with an equal sign, take the actual amount minus the projected amount, autofill that down through cell E11. The orientation of cells, we looked at it just briefly before in a previous project, but this time we're going to again go through the Format Cells dialog box to change the orientation of these titles, essentially B2 through E2. And to get to the Format Cells dialog box and immediately to the Alignment tab, which is where the orientation is located, we'll go to the Orientation group and click on the dialog box launcher. That brings up the Format Cells dialog box with the Alignment tab selected. And then in the Format Cells dialog box, we're going to change the degrees on the right hand from 0 to 45. Now you can use your little spin boxes here, and that's totally fine. That'll take forever to do it if you use that. But you can do that, or you can type in 45, or change it back to 0. I can also use the line here, the graphical line, and change it so that it goes to the 45. Okay, I'm going to click OK out of that dialog box. And then also they want us to change the vertical alignment in cells A1 to E2. So A1, the titles, and then the headings for each one of the columns. They want us to change those to vertical alignment and centered. So, and again, they want us to use the Format Cells dialog box to do that. So I'm going to go back into the Alignment group and choose the dialog box launcher, which will bring up the Format Cells dialog box with the Alignment tab selected. And for vertical, we're going to change that to center. And click OK. And then notice how that shifts the text so that it's in the center vertically of each of these cells. Also, we're going to change the alignment of just cells A2 through E2 so that they're centered horizontally in the cells, going the same way. We're going to go back to the dialog box launcher, Format Cells. This time horizontal, we're going to change that to center. And click OK. Obviously, we could have done that on the ribbon. You can see these being selected here. Either one of those buttons would have worked just fine. So then we're also going to change the horizontal alignment and the indentation of the text for cells B3 through B11. And what they want done here is they're going to have it be indented by a few characters from the right. So select the cells that you want to apply this indentation to, and then again we're going to go back to the Format Cells dialog box. And you're going to see for the horizontal alignment, we want to change that so that it's a right indent. We want it coming in a little bit from the right. And then they tell us that they want to indent it just one space. And then we'll click OK. You can see it being indented just slightly there from the right. In Project 4B, you're going to see that we'll change the font and the format, font colors, all of that. Just like we've done in a previous project through the ribbon, we can also do it through the Format Cells dialog box. So we're going to start out by changing the font and the font color of cells A1 through E11. So I'm going to select A1 through E11. And we're going to go to the Format Cells dialog box on the Font tab. So to get to that, we're going to go to the Font group and click on the dialog box launcher. That will take us to the Format Cells dialog box, and it'll automatically put the Font tab as your default tab. And then we're going to change the font to Garamond. So I'm going to type that in, and it did not change. There it went. Okay, so it's going to go down to Garamond, the G's. And then the font box, we're going to increase the font size to 12. And the color, we're going to change that to dark red. And then we'll click OK out of that. And then in cell A1, we're going to bold that and increase the font size to 24. Okay. And then in cells A2 through E2, we're going to also apply the bolding to those cells as well. And then I'm going to save that so that we can update our changes. And then again, still using the Format dialog box, in Project 4C, we're going to change the orientation of some cells, and we're also going to add some borders to our cells. So we're going to start out by changing the orientation back to the way it was originally before we had changed it to the 45-degree angles. So I'm going to select the B2 through E2 again, and then we're going to go back into the Alignment group and click on the dialog box launcher. That takes us to the Format Cells dialog box, and we're going to take it back to 0 degrees. You could either typed it in, or I'm clicking on the diamond here on the right. Click OK out of that. That takes it back to the way it was originally. The row height of row 2, they want us to change that to 33. Slight increase. And then we can add some borders. And they want us to select A1 through E11. We're going to put some outside borders on this. So once you get it selected, then again we're going to go to the Format Cells dialog box. We'll go directly to the font group, click on the dialog box launcher, and you know what, I must have taken you, no, okay, instead of the dialog box launcher, if you go to the borders button and click on the drop down arrow, at the very bottom of this, and I don't think you're going to be able to see it in my demo, but at the very bottom of your drop down list you should see more borders, which will take you to the Format Cells dialog box and place you at the border tab immediately. So once you're in the Format Cells dialog box, then we're going to change the color. The line style, actually we need to do that first. The line style itself is going to be found in the second column, the second from the bottom. And the color of that border, we also want it to be dark red. And we want a thick line, that's where this comes in. That's our style. And then we're going to use an outline. We want it around the outer edges of our worksheet. So the presets, we're just going to click on outline. Notice in the preview how it's going to actually appear. If you click on outline, I'm going to click on none. If I click on any part of the preview area, it'll put borders in over here as well. Okay, so lots of combinations of ways that you can build your border area. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click out of that. That should put a red border around the area of our worksheet. Then we're going to add a border above and below cells A2 through E2. And again, we're going to go back into more borders. So I'm going to go back to the drop down arrow down at the very bottom, which again I know you can't see, but that'll bring up the Format Cells dialog box. And this time in the dialog box, we're going to change the style so that it's a double bottom border. And then, and this didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but let's go back to the single just a minute. They want the outline. Okay, so they want a thick single line at the top and a double at the bottom. So that single line needs to be selected first, and then you can click over in your preview area to get that top single line, and then the double border style will select it, and then you can click in the bottom border of it in your preview. Okay, now click OK, and then now we should have a single top border, double bottom border for just those cells that we had selected. In Project 4D, we're going to take a look at adding fill color again and shading to our cells, which we've already done using the ribbon, but they want us to use the Format Cells dialog box. Also, we're going to look at the feature called Repeat Last Action, which can be applied by pressing F4 along your function keys at the top of your keyboard, or by pressing Control Y. So we'll take a look at both of those in Project 4D. So we're going to start out, we're going to add some fill color to cell A1. So I'm going to click to select the cell that I want to apply the fill color to, and then we're going to again go to actually the cells group this time. And you know what, I'm lying to you. We're going to go to the the cells group, and then the format button. And within the format button drop down list, we're going to go into Format Cells. That's at the very bottom, which again you're not going to be able to see. But that'll get you into the border tab as well. And within that, well, let me get back here just a second. Cells, Format Cells. Must remember what you had previously. So we want to switch to the Fill tab, and we'll just have to click on that. And then you've got your color palette. There's fill effects here if you want to show the variations of the colors that are in the palette. Also, additional colors can be added through the standard or the custom areas in the More Colors button. So what we're going to do right now though is we're going to choose the light purple for the fill color, and it's on the second row here, 8th one. When you're in this dialog box, notice I'm laying my mouse on these colors. We're not getting tooltips as to what they're called. So they're just identifying this as being the 8th color from the left in the second row. Okay, and you can see it automatically come up in the preview area. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK out of that, and it should apply the purple or the light lavender in the background of cell A1. And then we're going to also apply that same color to the titles of each of the columns. I'm going to select that, and instead of using the fill color, which is probably lavender right here, we can use the repeat command, which is either F4 on your function key or the key combination Control Y, and it'll repeat whatever your last action was. Okay, so now we have applied the purple fill color to cells A2 through E2. Next, we're going to insert a new row between rows 1 and 2. So I'm going to select row 2. Now actually I'm going to right click on row 2 and choose insert, and that'll insert a blank row between those two columns. And we're going to change the row height to 12. Kind of a little divider there. And then we're going to add a different color of shading in row 2. So let me get those selected there. And we'll go back into Format Cells in the fill color. And this time we are going to use the fill effects. So we'll go into Fill Effects, and we're going to look at Color 2. And this is just kind of random, but they're going to choose a form of the purple color, an accent. And then we'll also, well, that's accent, purple accent 4 is the one that they want us to select. And so we've selected that, and click OK from there. That gives you kind of your little variation, and then I'm going to click OK out of that. So you can see it's kind of gone from light to dark, and then it goes back to the light color again. In Project 4E, we're going to take a look at the Format Painter, which, as I mentioned previously, the Format Painter allows you to copy currently applied formats within your worksheet to other cells. So if you've applied, a different font size, font color, fill color, maybe a border and shading, and you've done it to one area, now you're looking at it and you're like, I like that a lot. If you went to and applied it to another cell, there's several steps that you would have to go through to apply those same formats to that cell. But with the Format Painter, you're able to copy formats from one cell to another, which makes life a lot easier. And so we're first of all going to apply a fill color to rows A5 through E5, and then once we get that fill color applied, then we'll use the Format Painter to copy it to rows 7, 9, and 11. So let's get the fill color first. Again, they want us to go to the Format Cells dialog box, and the fill color that they want us to use this time is on the second row, fourth one from the right. So select that. And I'm going to click off of it for just a second, but you can see that it's got a light green color that has been applied to it. And then I'm going to keep that highlighted because they want that to be highlighted. And then we're going to apply the Format Painter and use that to copy the formats from those cells to rows 7, 9, and 11. And if you click one time on the Format Painter, that allows you to copy once and then it turns it off. In our case, we want to copy it to several different locations, so we want to keep the Format Painter on until we're done, and then we'll go back and turn it off. So to do that, and you can see it in the tooltip, it's telling you all that. Okay, the second little paragraph, double click this button to apply the same formatting to multiple places. And the first one says copy formatting from one place and apply it to another, and then it turns it off. So I'm going to double click, and then I'm going to go down to cells A7. I'm just clicking in A7, then I'm going to click in A9 and A11, and you can see it formatting those to green. Now to turn it off, I'm going to go back up to the ribbon, click on that to turn it off, and then it should remove the floating marquee as well as apply the green fill to the colors or to the cells that you've selected. Finally, in Project 4F, we're going to take a look at how we can hide and unhide columns and rows. And there may be times when you are sharing a worksheet with another user, or maybe even displaying it on a screen somewhere, and you're sharing information that way. There may be times when there are certain portions of the worksheet that you don't want shared or you don't want shown to the user that you're sharing it with, and you don't want to delete it, but you just want to hide it temporarily. And so we're going to take steps here to actually do that in the worksheet that you're seeing in front of you. The first thing that we're going to do is hide 2 rows, and the 2 rows that they're looking at are 7 and 11. So the Lindstrom Enterprises and Summit Services, they want those 2 rows hidden. So you can do multiple rows, multiple columns by holding down the control key. So I'm going to select row 7 first, and then I'm going to hold down the control key and click on row 11, and that selects both of those rows. And then to actually hide the row, we're going to go back to the cells group, click on format, and you'll see an option for hide and unhide, and we want to hide rows. So click on that. Notice those are hidden. You can see over in the numbers that the actual row number is missing there. So if a person's pretty sharp with Excel, they'll know that things have been hidden. And although they don't mention it here, if you are pass this workbook on to someone else, you probably want to protect the worksheet with a password if you truly want to keep them from looking at the information. To hide a column, you do it the same way. You just select any cell in the column that you want to hide. In our particular case, they want us to hide D, column D. But again, you go back to your cells group, click on format. In the hide and unhide, this time instead of rows, we're going to use columns. So click on that. Again, D's gone, it's hidden temporarily. So lots of ways that you can keep users from seeing the information that maybe doesn't pertain to them or that you don't want them to see because of security or privacy issues. Okay. And then to bring those back, simply if you want to surround the rows that are hidden, so you'd start with row 5, I'm going to click and drag down through 12, and then you go back to the format button, choose hide and unhide, and then there's unhide rows. And then if you want the columns unhidden, you'd have to select C and E, surround the columns that are hidden. Again, you go back to your format cells and then unhide columns, and that'll bring back column D. Also, I just might want to mention too, if you have several columns that are hidden, several rows that are hidden, and you don't want to go to each one separately, you can also select the entire sheet and then go back to format, hide and unhide, and you can unhide rows, keep it highlighted, come back and unhide columns. So that's kind of a quick way if you've got multiple columns that are hidden or multiple rows that are hidden. Just select the entire sheet first, and that will allow you to do multiple columns or rows. So, all right, well, that concludes chapter 3. Again, I would recommend that you read through the chapter summary that's at the end of the chapter on page 96 and 97. And also page 98, 99 are the concepts check. So you may want to complete those as well. And as always, complete the assessments at the end just for extra practice and make sure that you understand the concepts that were discussed in the chapter. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to email me or call me.